of our videos. We're reaching a lot of people, and you know, I forgot to say it earlier last time. Go check out our YouTube channel, the Bellwether No. Um, Today is kind of an impromptu uh, deal that we're doing. Yesterday, I had to take my kids back to their mom, and it was, I always get excited when I get them. Um, it's one of those things that I get so excited for, and to be able to do. And when I take them back, it's always rough. It's always a rough time for me because, I mean, they're my kids, and I don't get to see them as much as possible. Me and my ex-wife kind of have fallen out about, getting them back to her and stuff like that. And um, it really, it really kills me to have to, share my time with my daughters, which I understand. I mean, that's what I chose, but um, you know, I live with my sister, and she knows when I take my kids back, it's always one of those times that like I want to, like I don't like being alone, uh, last night when I got home, uh, I was thinking, maybe I'll go out and have a drink or whatever, but I didn't. I was unmotivated. I sat there on the couch and watched TV. Finally, I went to bed early. This morning I woke up early, and when I woke up, I was just unmotivated to do anything. Like I cooked breakfast, but I just went back to bed. Um, Widener called me probably about an hour ago. He was like, "Hey, dude, what are you doing?" I was like, "Laying in bed." Like he was like, "What the hell for?" And I was just telling him, it seemed like a lot. It was a lot weighing on me, and it's like I was telling him before we went live. You know, there's just a lot. We sit here and we preach to y'all, do radio checks and buddy checks, and check on your buddies and see if they're okay and everything. And honestly, if he wouldn't have called me about an hour ago, I'd probably still be in bed. Um, and it's easy when something against you, or you start, feeling sorry for yourself because of one thing. It's easy to let everything come in contact, that that might be bothering you. It's easy for all that stuff to start bothering you. Recently, with my job, they cut my hours, down to 40 hours, and my kids not being here, and like I said before, me and my sister, we live in the house together, and she got her new boyfriend, which is great. The dude's an awesome guy, but she's spending a lot more time away from the house, and that's where she was last night. She was with her boyfriend, which that's where she needed to be. But in the same breath, like, out of all these times that I, you know, taking my kids home, and I come home to an empty house, it just, when it's empty, it's even more lonely. It's like I was telling, when I went up to Colorado and I saw Widener and his wife and his kids and all that, I don't know how many times I told him, "You're a lucky man. Hang on to what you got, because you don't understand. Like, I got married young. I've been married twice. My first wife, we got married. We had no business getting married. We really didn't. We were way too young. We were way too naive. We just did it. Things didn't work out. I ended up marrying the mother of my children. We were young. We had a lot of expectations. We wanted that 50-year marriage feel when we could barely. I mean, I met her at 10 cent margarita night. I'm not saying that bad about her, but I don't recommend that kind of courtship to anybody. Like, I feel like somebody you marry should be your your soulmate, not somebody you're just having fun with at the time. Because and she will tell you too. Like, we were fun together until it had to be serious, and then when it had to be serious, it felt like either one of us were really ready
Hey,
for
well,
the whole marriage.
let me stop real quick and kind of let me elaborate on where this came from. When I called them, like what we're trying to promote right now is seek someone to talk to, and because that's going to make everything better. So I called Wadzik, and we're trying to do this for the better of everybody that we can reach to. And this is a prime example that I called my buddy, and he needed somebody to talk to. So this is a raw, very raw conversation. We didn't talk about this, nothing like that. This is just so raw that we thought that everyone needs to talk or hear it, because this is how it is. So it's like, this is what happens when you call a friend. You can get into these conversations like this, and this is where we're at. I had no intention on doing a podcast tonight, and here it is. So I'm just going to add that in. That's all.
No, and he's right. It was one of those deals. He asked me, "Are you comfortable going live?" And it's like I told him. I said, "This is the things that we're preaching to these people. The buddy check, and things might be a little raw. Some things might be a little hard to take, but it's best to show, lead by example, that we're actually doing this. And like I said, it's not really. We didn't do much research going into this. It was a buddy check that seemed real raw. It seemed like it should be on live, and that's why we decided to go ahead and do it.
Well, saying it's okay to do it because it's okay to reach out, and this is how it works. Like,
Yeah.
So.
And it was. I mean, it was raw. I mean, like I said, nobody wants to, see their kids leave. It's like I was explaining to him during the summers. I get them for a lot longer time, and I get to spend an ample amount of time with them during the summers. But see, I got them Wednesday, and they went back Saturday. And when I got home, I realized that they were gone until I'll see them a little bit after Christmas. Like, I think I'll have them for New Year's, and that's kind of exciting. I get to see them soon, but they live up in North Texas, and I'm over here in West Texas, which is about a 4-hour drive, to see them. So we have to meet at a midway point, to see the kids. And, like when they were younger, we come to the agreement when they started school that we were going to start bringing the kids back on Saturdays. That way they have a whole day to get ready for school. They're not tired going into Monday morning at school and stuff like that. And Friday night, I texted her. It's like, hey, what time do you want to pick up the girls, tomorrow? And she was like, well, I'm working. Well, I'm sitting here thinking like, okay. Well, she wasn't able to get off work till about 3. And I know driving, going to where she was going, you got to watch for deer and all kinds of stuff on the road. And at night, I know she can't see real good at night, And then over here in West Texas, I-20 is one of the most dangerous roads you can be on in the whole world. I mean, it's these truck drivers, and oil field is booming so bad right now. I-20. I mean, I've seen memes and little jokes on Facebook about how it's like the Thunderdome down here driving on I-20, and it gets worse at night. So it was one of those deals, we try to meet around lunchtime. That way we're both off the road, when it gets dark. And she wanted me to meet her about another hour on my side, which is in Abilene, which is another hour for me, but less time for her. And I was going to do it, but I said, as long as you can leave by 2, that way we can both get off the road before it gets too crazy. Of course, she got mad about that, which we got over it all, but still, it's, the thing is, we still met at our halfway point. The girls went home. On the way back, taking them, me and the girls, we always have these, great conversations and stuff. And on the way back, I listen to music, and I'm one of those, I really love like the sad music and all that stuff. And so that didn't really help much, but
it does to an extent.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
But when you're driving down an interstate, fearing for your life with all these trucks and stuff around you, and you're listening to sad music, and I came back into town. I stopped, grabbed me something to eat. I was going to come home, take a shower, maybe go, have a beer with a friend or two, or something. But I got home and I ate, and I did not even want to. I didn't want to do nothing, man. I couldn't bring myself to wanting to do a damn thing. And a lot of it, I think, is because the house was quiet, so therefore I could actually think about what was going on.
Sure.
We've been trying to come up with topics on this podcast. That way we can do our research and have everything ready. We weren't sure what our next podcast was going to be, so I couldn't indulge myself into just researching a bunch of facts for the next podcast. I don't work a job where, I could just go into work and do some work to get my mind off of it. My job is pretty much, like, it's not one of those kind of jobs, Like I said, my sister was at her boyfriend's house in Midland, and I was pretty much over driving by the time that I got home, and they offered for me to go over there, but I just, fuck that. That's another 30, 45 minute drive for, didn't have to make it to come home. I just really wasn't feeling it, And I mean, you sit here, and like I said, it's easy when one thing's got you down. It's easy to sit there and let everything that's wrong in your life start taking a toll on you. I'm not saying that it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's easy when you're having these little pity parties or these episodes where your depression is setting in or whatever. It's easy during that time to point out all the shit in your life that is bad. It's hard to look at the things that are good, and I have tons to be thankful for. I really do. I have so much to be thankful for, but for the life of me, I couldn't think of any of those at that time. I was more thinking of how shitty this situation is, where I don't even get to see my kids, on a normal basis, and going back to, like when I get to see you with your family up in Colorado and how lucky you are to have them. And like every time I talk to you, you're so happy, because, oh man, I'm getting to spend time with the kids. Like, what'd you tell me? I took my kids to the park, and now we're sitting by the fire. Like when you told me that, like, I was like, man, I don't even know if I should tell him what I'm going through, because I mean, that's the stuff he needs to be worried about. And I think that's a lot of it too, is we're afraid to tell people our problems because we don't want to inconvenience you in your life and the life that you have going on.
Well, do you think it's inconvenience, or people want to get judged also? Like, that's not the intention, is inconveniencing anybody. And that's why I think people stay so silent about stuff like this. And, at the end of the day, what's happening is you went through a divorce, and you have certain time for your girls. and you have to drop them off. So you go through this high when you pick them up. You're like, all right, I got my girls. And then when you drop them off, you hit this low, just like you're explaining right now. And that's what sucks about the whole thing. And you're not the only one going through it.
No, no.
You know, it's just a hard situation.
Yeah.
You know, and talking from it from my point of view, it's because I have all my girls. I have my wife and my two daughters, and I'm very fortunate. I am. But I can sit there and, you know, talk with you and try to console with what you're dealing with, but I will never fully understand. But it's all about being, you know, there with you as a friend, you know, as a support person. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. And, you know, I didn't want to put you, like Wojcik said earlier, it's not, we didn't even plan on talking today. And with what Wojcik said when I called him, I felt like it's leading from the front. It's as raw as it gets because we are trying to promote this stuff and promote people talking and all that. What kind of people would we be if we didn't talk about what we're dealing with at the end of the day? And Wojcik, he really stepped up and he said, here's what I'm dealing with. And that's where we're at. So it's got to be tough, brother. It does. I don't know. I can speak on it from a point of view at the absolute opposite spectrum that I'm at, and that's it. Like I can't provide too much more.
Right. And like I said, you know, when you know, when you told me, like, say, hey, let's you know, let me call you, talk to you face to face, you know, through Messenger. He said, like, you know, give me 10 minutes. Let's, you know, get to your computer. Let's talk. And, you know, what did I tell you? Nah, man, you don't worry about me. Like, you got your family, you know, stuff like that. And I think a lot of it is just that when, you know, we talked about it on the last podcast, you know, the whole Hallmark and Lifetime movie family that you see on TV, like when you don't have that, it is depressing, especially when you have the ingredients for it, except one.
Sure.
You know, like I have a good job. I mean, yeah, they cut my hours, but it's still a good job.
Sure.
You know, I'm semi, you know, healthy, I guess you could say. I have two wonderful, wonderful, wonderful daughters that I couldn't ask for better kids, man. I really couldn't, you know, and that's one thing that I'll never take away from my ex-wife. Like, she has them 90%, 98% of the time, I would say. You know, when they were younger, I got to see them a lot more, but now they're involved in every sport, every extracurricular activity. They're so smart, and they're awesome little kids, man. They really are. And Widener knew me before I had kids, and that's what I needed to slow down, because I'm telling him, if I would have continued with the life that I was living before I had kids, I probably wouldn't be here in front of you today. They're just awesome, you know. They're awesome kids, you know, and I have the ingredients to have that Hallmark or that Lifetime family, you know, that you see on TV. The only thing I don't have is them here all the time. I don't have that partner. Like, one thing that I really admire about you and Courtney is y'all make decisions together. I mean, everything y'all do, y'all talk to each other about. And to me, I think that's huge, you know, because that is something when I was married that I missed. That was something that me and her both we flew right by that whole thing, you know.
Well, with you, hold on, I'll stop you for now. With you saying that is we make it together, but it has not always been that way. We have been at completely rock bottom, and it took us a lot to get to where we are at now. And I think people need to understand that also is, it takes work for what myself and my wife have. So it's not fair to compare stuff to my wife and, myself and my wife, what we have. It's not fair. I appreciate.
But not, I really am. I really am thankful to see that, though. You know, I mean, when I was a kid, you know, my mom, the one I call my mom now, is actually my second stepmom that I had in my life. My real mom, she left when I was real young. My second mom, I grew up thinking that was my real mom until she left. And then, like, when my dad told me that they got a divorce, I was like, oh, cool. So I get to see her every other weekend anyway. He was like, no, that's not your real mom. And I'm just like, what the fuck, you know? I made life hell on my stepmom, the one that I call my mom now. I made life hell on her because I figured she'd leave just like everybody else. So, with that being said, my grandparents, both my grandparents on my dad's side, both of them been divorced and remarried. My dad been divorced and remarried. You know, he's on his third marriage, which I'm thankful for this woman in my life every day. Usually around Mother's Day or her birthday, I usually, go all out on Facebook and tell everybody how much she means to me because I put her through hell, man. I really did. Until I was about a senior in high school, and they got married when I was in the third grade. I was fucking horrible to her, and I look back at it and I tell, oh man, I don't know why you stayed because I sure as hell wouldn't put up with that shit, But she's a stronger woman than I am, and with everything that's going on with my dad right now, seeing how she stepped up to the plate, man, I couldn't ask for somebody better in my life. But this goes back to growing up. I had certain things to look at as far as marriage goes. My brother, he's significantly a little bit older than me. I went to Korea. He was married to one woman. I come back from Korea. He's married to a different one. I was gone for a year. Within that year's time span, he got a divorce. My sister, she's went through two divorces also. I mean, like, I didn't really have that to look at. So when I see you and Courtney making decisions together and doing things right and genuinely loving each other, like, that means a lot to me because I see that it still exists. Yeah, I want that stuff, but I see that it still exists in people. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty nice, I mean, I was telling you earlier, and I made a comment on Facebook last night on something about a post that I put on, and Cummins. What it was is it was a man and a woman on a 4-wheeler kissing each other, and it said, "I'd rather this than Netflix and chill any day." And Cummins made the comment, "Well, obviously you don't know what Netflix and chill means." And I told him, I said, "Oh, I know what it means, but it's meaningless. I'm over that. I want something real, And I mean, it seems like I know I'm hard to deal with. I get it. I'm sure I'm hard to deal with as a friend. I can't imagine being with somebody like me because I'm hard to deal with. But when I think back at it, if I could ever find somebody that actually can put up with me the way that I am and see the good in me and not just the negative, and I think it'll be all right. But that's when I see what you and Courtney have, like, it's hard not to be a little jealous of it, and I'm not a jealous person at all. I mean, I'm not. I had this conversation with a friend of mine last night, you know, so I'm not a jealous person. I mean, you're going to do whatever you're going to do, whether I decide to put up with it or not, that's on me.
Sure.
But, but that goes back to being 100% transparent and being honest about everything.
Yep.
Not lying to one another.
Now, with that being said, let me stop you right there if I can. With that being said, I appreciate hearing that. I really do. That means a lot to me. It's just, it took me, myself and my wife, a long time to get to where we're at. Years, literally years to get to where we're at. And that's appreciated. And at the end of the day, it's okay for, how you're feeling too about what you're going through. And just how do you pick yourself up? Because right now, like what started this whole podcast that we weren't even going to do is how do you pick yourself up and move on? Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Like I think a lot of it with me is I just have to drive on. Like I can't let this get me down. Like my kids, depend on me, to a certain point. Even if,
Absolutely.
I mean, I pay child support to my ex-wife, and if I start feeling sorry for myself, I just stay in bed and I don't go to work. She doesn't get that child support. My kids don't get what they need. And, I could literally, sit here and talk about how unfair it is for me. Or I can sit here and do something about it, which the only thing I know to do about it is step up, be the person that I need to be the dad I need to be the brother I need to be the son I need to be, to the people that depend on me. And if I don't do that, then I'm not being a service to anyone. I'm not. I mean, I feel that to make your life better, like it's on you. It's like I said in the last podcast. If you're not where you want to be in life or whatever, you only have the person in the mirror to look for it. And sometimes it's hard to look at that person in the mirror and say, you know what, I only have myself to blame for the way I am. And I strongly believe that. I strongly believe that it's rough, and a lot of my friends around here, especially around here, divorced or have gone through something, terrible or whatever. I mean, like usually we have something in common because, and this is a whole nother stat we really kind of need to look up, is look how many veterans, not just veterans, but everybody, look how many marriages end up in divorce now compared to say 40 years ago. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier, in the last one, we actually fix things instead of just, oh, fuck it, I'll find another one somewhere else. I don't need that.
Yep.
It's easy to sit here and talk about it. It really is. It's easy to say, well, if I was in that relationship, I'd fix this, I'd do that. You don't know the situations. I always say there's 3 stories to every side. It's yours, theirs, and what really actually happened.
And
it's all about perception. It's kind of like the deal you posted earlier about the paramedic in the hole. It's all about perception, I think the way that I see things may not be the healthiest ways to see it.
Sure.
for the fact of the things that I went through growing up and to now, um, I'm usually the first one to see, like, I can read people pretty good. I can usually tell within the first 10, 15 minutes if it's a good person or not, and drives my sister insane because I usually can call it, like, oh, that person ain't worth a shit, or whatever. But it's mainly just to do with life experiences, I mean, but it's hard, and it's hard to start dating at this age, like where you're trying to make a career, you're trying to be a good parent, you're trying to, keep, your family happy, like,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to date at this point in life.
But it's harder because what you're dealing with, with a divorce and children involved, like, yeah, it makes it harder. And I think what I'm thinking is what we're getting at is it's okay for people to talk about this, because how many dads do you think are out there that are going through the same thing? I'm sure quite a few.
I imagine about
you're not
50% of, probably about 50 or 60% of all dads right now feel the same thing I feel about letting their kids have,
and it's
at
perfect.
least.
Yeah, and it's perfect that.
I mean, that's not a direct, like, quote. Don't quote me on that percentage, but by the rate of divorce and everything that we got going on, and even if they're not divorced, I mean, how many dads out there had kids with somebody they never married? Sure. That they don't get the same rights. I mean, like, it's crazy to think. And there's mothers going through this too. It's not just fathers. Sometimes the dad gets the and I mean, it's rough to see them kids go. I mean, when they were smaller, it was rough because they were at that age where they were still learning things. They were still, they didn't really have their own personalities just yet, but now that they're older and their personalities, what, how good your kids are as far as how thankful you are of how they turned out. And, it hurts to see them go. It does. I mean,
absolutely.
And when they give me that hug and that kiss bye, man, like, when I get back in the truck, at first, I'm fine. I get a little bit ways down the interstate and I look in the back seat to tell them something and they're gone. And it's like, like they were just here. Like, I just had them and then they have to go, And it's, like I said, in the summertime, I get an ample amount of time with them. So it's harder because we're spending this much time together and then all of a sudden they're gone. But in the same breath, it's a little bit easier because we actually got to spend an ample amount of time together. And that to me is huge,
Well, I think what's huge about this is you were able to actually reach out and talk about how you feel about it, because that's what we're trying to get to. And with you being able to, like, this is first, like, hand look at what we're trying to do, and you're doing it for, I don't care if it's anyone else. Like, I just want, you're putting yourself up front to say, hey, it's okay to feel this way and feel these emotions and talk about. And that's amazing. And it's like in itself for you to sit there and be able to put yourself and be vulnerable about the things that you're talking about right now,
Well, that's something that we talked about when we decided to do the podcast also.
Yeah.
Is 100% transparency, there's going to be times that it's going to be hard to listen to. There's going to be times that we're going to hit on certain things that are rough, and that most people don't want to hear. Maybe if they don't, not necessarily they don't want to hear it, but it's hard to hear.
Yeah.
And I could have very easily said, you know what, I don't want to do that.
Sure.
That's putting my personal business out there, which, my personal business, I mean, it is, but in the same breath, like it's like you said, how many other people are going through this? And if I don't share,
Why would they want
I'm
to?
not doing any good.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not doing any good.
You're leading from the front right now, and you're telling people that it's okay to talk about it. The only reason that I called you out, like to talk about this on live, was because this is what people need to hear. So it's
Right.
appreciated that you're, talking about it. So.
Right. And and it's also what I told you too before we got on is, we're sitting here telling people, how to do buddy checks and what to do and all this stuff. But if I didn't go live with this, I feel like we'd be kind of hypocritical.
Absolutely.
Because this all started from you calling me.
Yep. Absolutely.
And and I, for everybody going through this right now, trust me, you're not the only one that feels that way. If somebody's not checking on you, maybe you should check on them. Maybe there's somebody that wants to hear it, but just doesn't know you're going through it. And I just feel that I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. I get it. And that's one of the reasons why I agreed to go ahead and come on live. And not only that, it's like I was telling you, we're trying to help these people, but we don't even have our shit together 100%. I mean, we're just trying to lay out facts. We're trying to be someone that they could talk to or, listen to and maybe motivate them to talk to that one person that's going to help them, whatever.
I just want people to feel listened to. That's my that goes.
Yeah.
Like that goes, so far.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, we didn't start this stuff, to try to be better than anyone or anything like that. That's not the case. We actually want to help.
Yep.
And it's like I was telling you, like we're doing all this stuff, and we still have our own issues that we're dealing with, and I think with us going live and proving that, maybe it'll spark somebody else.
It's okay to have those problems on a day-to-day basis, and it's okay to have the feelings and the emotions. Like that's a huge thing. It's okay to have all of that. And by you, sharing this today, that just proves, hey, that's okay.
Well, that's like Slow said in our first one. It's okay not to be okay,
Absolutely.
And like I said, if there's a mistake to be made, I promise you, I've made it in my life at least once.
Oh, me too.
Sometimes 100%. Twice to make sure.
100%. Yeah.
At least twice to make sure that it was a stupid mistake.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I told you, you knew me before I had kids. If I was still living that life, and oh my God, those of you that knew me before kids, y'all can attest to it. The life I was living was going to end me up in one or two places. I was either going to be dead or in prison. My kids, man, changed my whole perspective on life, where I wanted to go with life. I mean, I don't know how many times or how long of a period I would sit there and I would drink myself to sleep every night. Wake up the next morning and say, I'm never drinking again. Then by 5 o'clock, already be starting on another 30 pack or a bottle of whiskey or going out, and I mean, where we went out at, they had penny beer. So you can't tell me that I didn't drink my weight in beer.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like I said, I made plenty of mistakes in my life. I made mistakes with jobs. I've made mistakes with
in life in general. Like it's in life in general, and people are going to make mistakes in life that are minimal, and then people are going to make mistakes in life that are like just tragic. And it's okay to do that because that's how you learn the person who you are. The mistake that people don't make a lot is talking about it and how to get through that,
Right. So, right. And I agree. And I'm thankful that, you had your head on your shoulders to say, hey, let's go live with this. Let's tell people what we're dealing with, because like you said, this is very, very raw.
It's a raw conversation.
It is. It really is. And like I said, it came up, just because you called. If you wouldn't have called, I'd probably still be in bed right now. Wouldn't be holding my old puppy Newt here or nothing. I mean, I'd probably just still be in bed, just feeling sorry for myself, but there was no reason for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I don't know. I think, thank you for sharing. And I think everyone can get something out of this if they just listen to it and listen to the message that you opened up, and you not only opened up to me, there's going to be all kinds of people that hear this. And that's a lot right there. That takes a whole lot. So.
Yeah. And like I said, there's certain things that are hard to talk about that we're going to go through on this podcast. There's certain things that are going to be rough to hear and whatever, and I get that 100%. And it's like I was telling you earlier, when we decided we were going to do this, we talked about doing all the research, making sure we got everything right, but when we started doing the research, it was kind of an eye-opener on some of these numbers,
Yeah.
And, it's one of those things that we can do all the research in the world, but nothing is good as actual raw, feelings or something,
Yeah.
And so, I'm thankful that you had a head on your shoulders to say, hey, look, let's go ahead and go live with it. Do you feel comfortable with it? And like I said, it wouldn't be right for me to say no when we expect everybody else to do it, it was, like I said, it wasn't my first thought, let's go live with this crazy stuff that's in my life.
Sure.
But it needed to be done. Sure. And I hope that somebody can see, why we did it, or, maybe learn something from it. But like I said, I have tons to be thankful for. I'm just sometimes too hard-headed to realize it.
Yeah.
And
I think that people can see it's okay to open up. I think from anything, this is a huge deal, to remind people it's okay to open up and talk to somebody. And we're just putting out there to the world, which is fine. But it's not fine for everybody. Like, it's tough. So I applaud you for doing that, and thank you for talking. And I think hopefully people will follow in your footsteps. That's just what I want.
Yeah, I do too. I hope so too. And if anybody wants to, reach out to us, we're more than welcome. We welcome it more than anything. We'll talk to anybody about anything. Don't be afraid to step up and say, hey, look, I want to talk about this, that, and the other. No matter who you are. I mean, we may not always have the right things to say, but at least we'll listen,
and that's all it takes.
And I want to thank everybody for the likes and the shares, and continue to do that, guys. I think we're starting to reach people that aren't just on our friends list. I really think so. I mean, when we only have about 400 likes on the page, but our stuff is getting viewed as much as it is, that tells me that you're sharing and liking, and I love it. And like I said before, don't forget the YouTube channel either. For those that don't have Facebook, forward them the YouTube video or something. But guys, I appreciate everything, and thank y'all. Thank you, Widener, for checking in on me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Courtney, for letting me borrow your husband in a great time. And but no, I appreciate everything. And like I said, I think that talking about it helps. I mean, this damn dog is crazy. This dude, I think it helps talking about it. It doesn't take all the pain away, but it gets a little bit off your chest,
Absolutely.
I mean, I sit here and talk to this dog all I want, but if it's not going to talk back, I'm just sitting here rambling, And thank y'all for everything. And till the next podcast, y'all do buddy checks, radio checks, whatever. Take care of each other. We're all we got,
Yep.
And that's something that I'm a firm believer in. We're all we have. We don't have. I mean, we just got to help each other. And that goes with every aspect. Somebody at work might need something. Somebody down the street might need to talk to somebody. That old man that lives next door that likes to talk too much, that drives you nuts because he wants to keep you outside talking all the time. Maybe sometimes you just need to listen to them too, But like I said, thank y'all for everything, and we're going to go ahead and close this one out.
Yep. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for sharing, Wazzy.